Sunday the 23rd of January 2022, and I'm going to read today from it's United Christian, the UCB, the Word of Today, and I really like they're brilliant because they're relevant. They all take a proverb or a reading, but they'll apply it to life today. So I'm listening to Pure Peace because that's my morning peace. I mean, I'm lucky I can get out and hear the birds singing. A lot of you who live in these high blocks or whatever, you don't get to hear that. So it's nice. First thing, connect with nature. Well, it works for me. Everything works different for everyone. Excuse me. So, he who walks with wise men will be wise, but the companion of fools will be destroyed. And that's Proverbs 13:20. Not everyone who starts out with you is capable of going where God wants to take you. Sometimes they don't have the emotional capacity required. Other times their vision differs from yours. So how can you know when it's time to exit a relationship? Avoid relationships that leave you depleted. This calls for establishing clear boundaries for the relationship up front. You don't have time to spend your life straightening out misunderstandings, hurt feelings, and injured egos. How far are you willing to go? How much are you inclined to invest? When you overspend your budget, you go broke. Bankrupting yourself emotionally and physically to make someone else feel needed might sound noble, but it's not. Emotionally and physically, bankrupt people end up with everything from nervous breakdowns to extramarital affairs. That's very true. And even when they don't, they fail to reach their God-given destination in life because they're dragging too much weight. When you feel a relationship is not working, pause and take a look. View the situation objectively instead of emotionally, examining all the facets of it. Sometimes certain aspects of a relationship should be terminated and other areas maintained. It's possible to have relationships that work in one area but not in another. Compartmentalizing will save many important relationships because it requires you to see them in sections. It's possible to remove a section and still have a lot left to enjoy. Yes, it takes work and communication, but it's often worth it. There may be common interests that need to be maintained while others need to be invalidated before all is lost. Now that's very true in all kinds of relationships, but I'd say, okay, say in a romantic relationship. I'll use my last relationship as an example. Happened in the strangest circumstances, but we'd known each other for 10 years. We'd been friends. We used to drink in the same, coffee shop and everything, and it was family. And, it came to me at a good time because I was dealing with my parents being very sick or in and out of hospital, and he had been through similar trauma with his own family, members of his family. So he was really understanding, and he was incredibly supportive. And then, we ended up having a romantic relationship and becoming friends and working together and everything. And it worked really, really well. But, down the line, things change, relationships change. There's no guarantees in life for anything. There are no guarantees. So seize whatever relationship you're in, work on it. Don't take it for granted. And that goes both sides. Men, women, children, parents, aunties, uncles, everyone. If you in relationships, you choose to spend your time, your energy with those people. Now, if those people are depleting your energy consistently, okay, people go through a bad time and they're having a tough time. But, it also, you need to set boundaries, and that's what I've said that so many times. Boundaries, boundaries, boundaries. I mean, even when my parents were ill, and I was literally running non-stop, backwards and forwards from the hospital, in the hospital. And I learned a lot in being in the hospital, just listening. You can imagine, I pretty much in and out of there for 8 months. Every single ward, it's like, okay, they've moved mum again, they've moved her again. I kept, why you keep moving them? But because they had other people coming in that needed the speciality on that ward, or they didn't have enough machines, or just, it was, you know, and you listen. Oh my gosh, when you spend enough time there, you hear everything that goes on. You listen to the kitchen port, you know, the porters. Actually, they're the best source of information. If you want to know anything, ask the porters. The hospital then was so overworked. They didn't have enough staff. It's not their fault. They worked really hard, and it was, I think it was that Brexit time. So of course, a lot of the nurses that had worked there, they had to go back to their countries, so they were really understaffed. And they had bank nurses. And the only way these nurses could make money, they were just doing shift after shift after shift, and they're exhausted. But it's so that they could actually live, because they pay them so badly. And it's amazing the job they do. And they're just exhausted. You know, I was a little bit like a little Florence Nightingale. I'd run around and do this. I'd be, you know, there I could see this poor woman, you know, did no water in her thing, so I'd go and fill up the water just because I was sitting there with mum, and I would sit by the beds and talk to the other, you know, the ladies and people in there, and they were saying, oh, and I said, did you not have any family? And they're like, yeah, my son, but he's busy. There's another word I can't stand, busy. How can you be too busy to take time out to go and see your mother or your father or whoever? They were never too busy for you. They always found time for you. It didn't matter what they were doing, you know. And so I've gone a bit off course here, but it's to do with relationships. And I mean, there was one poor woman there, and I remember her, and she had a really bad chest problem. And they would do more and more and more tests, and she was so skinny, this poor woman, and they had the window open, and it was draft on her, and they didn't have enough blankets. So I remember I had a fluffy dressing gown, and I gave one to mum, and then I brought another one, and I gave it to her, and I wrapped her in it because she was so cold. And I thought her son, you know, I thought, oh, maybe he lives up north or somewhere away. He only lived like maybe 40 minutes away. And she said, oh, he's too busy to come and see me. And I thought, what kind of a son is that? She was such a lovely little old lady, you know. And I remember they had moved mum out of the ward that time. And I said to mummy, please leave her my dressing gown, you know, so at least she can be warm. Just, and those things, it's basic care of looking after somebody. You can't always be, not everybody's well. I mean, the last 2 days I've had to just stop and say to everyone, leave me alone. My shoulder has been incredibly painful, and I keep telling everyone I can't text, it hurts it, the cold here. I met a guy who was doing some exercise yesterday, and I said, look, it's a torn rotator cuff. If any of you've done that, I'm sure quite a few boxers maybe have done it. And it is incredibly painful. This is a 30-year-old injury. And normally I go swimming, but because I haven't been out of the country. The last time I went swimming was 2017. And the cold is horrendous. So, I mean, I've got it wrapped up here with this, and I found a great solution. These rocks off of the beach, I put them in the oven and warm them up and lay on them, and what a difference it made. It really helped. So as I was saying, look, no texting. And if that's the only way you can communicate with me, then don't. Because that's not a relationship. You might be all these false platitudes, I love you and I'll blah blah, I care about you and this, that and the other. If you can't do something as simple as pick up a phone, then that's not caring. It's just, that's not a relationship. So those snip, 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 snip. And have a beautiful Sunday, everybody. Look after your relationships, look after your family, look after your friends that look after you. And the ones that don't, whether it's blood family or whoever, new people, old people, whatever, if they're not there to help you when you're down and you need help, that's not a relationship, that's not love. There's a whole nother episode what that is. Love you all.